welcome to Rob from the Internet Talks About Beer, a show where we discuss different styles of beer, beer history, beer flavor profiles. We give shout outs to breweries we think make exceptional beer, and we talk about whatever else comes to mind during the course of the conversation. I'm Rob from the Internet. Let's talk about beer. All right, so joining me today is a random Twitter person who decided to be on my show, which is always one of the most fantastic types of guests to have because you never know what we're going to get in the grab bag. Joining me today is Brooks Brown. Brooks, if you would tell me a little bit about yourself, how you got into craft beer, and what you do when you're not talking to people like me about craft beer.
Well, I grew up in Denver, so beer was kind of just a thing, just family wise. And as I was going through high school, stealing Bud Ices where I could and the other crap beer that could exist, I started getting into with my cousin. My cousin started doing home brewing. And through him, I got into kind of some of the weirder, it was an early scene, the mid 90s. It was like just really getting going. Not to date myself. I'm going to do that a few times. And finally made my way to the Great American Beer Festival when it was in Denver. And that was revelatory. And I just became a fan of beer. It just became like a thing that I like to nerd out about, that turned into wine, that turned into just being a snob about everything. It's fine. Where it fully started for me was my first, I work in video games, and my first like games job that I got to leave Denver for was in San Francisco. And so I happened to move into a terrible apartment that was with 3 illegals and 1 non-illegal. Like, I didn't have any money. I was making $11.50 an hour, 30 hours a week in San Francisco. So like, you live where you do, but it happened to be right above City Beer Store. And if anyone here has been to San Francisco, City Beer Store is the place. It was wild. They had just opened, Craig and Beth, the owners, and they took pity on me. And Craig started teaching me about like really hardcore craft beer, like the stuff that I had no idea. And he was in it. He was one of the guys who would actually, get, kegs of Pliny when it would come down, and he knew everyone. And so he'd teach me about it. And it's ultimately what got me into the beer I'm drinking today, which I cracked out a special one. Because, like you said, random weird internet things are one of my favorite moments. And I love this stuff. So that's a short summary. I literally could go on for hours about all this, though. So I warn you.
Awesome. So today we are talking about sours. I have 3 different choices. I haven't decided which one I'm going to crack first. So first, from local to me, from Grain and Grit Brewing, is Hot Fun. So this is a sour with tangerine, vanilla, and lactose.
Oh Lord.
Another one that I have from the same brewery is called Lifeline. So this is a sour with blackberry, blackcurrant, and lavender. And then the third choice is one of my favorites. It's called Purple Sour Ranger. This is from Wild Card Brewing in Trenton, Ontario. This is a kettle soured farmhouse ale aged on black raspberries.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I call that one Purple Danger Juice, because you don't realize it's got alcohol until you're like 3 or 4 in, and you go to stand up and you kind of fall a little sideways.
It's awesome. It's so I'm for me, and I've already cracked it open, so it's because it's not a choice for me. It would be Temptation from Russian River. Russian River is probably my favorite brewery in the world. It's the only brewery I've ever spent Christmas at, I think, is the way I would put it. And they do some exceptionally weird beers and unusual stuff, but the stuff that I've gotten into is their re-aged sort of all sorts of beers, but they re-age beers inside of wine barrels. They're just outside of Sonoma. It makes sense that they were able to do that, but the way they do it and what it turns out, this is re-aged in Chardonnay, and it's just an exceptionally really tart sour beer at first. But I was checking the bottle date. This was bottled in 2017. And so it ages in a dark, cool place over time because it's corked. And so it just changes, and the flavor over time mellows out. It's extraordinary. It's one of my favorite beers ever. They've got 4 beers that are better than it, and I'm not sure anyone else in the world compares, in my opinion. This is my brewery of choice out of Santa Rosa, California.
That's what this show is about, is talking about your beer and breweries of choice. So yeah, for me, I'm a huge fan of big beers. So anything that's barrel aged in any sort of way that creeps up into the double digit ABVs is all right in my book. I'm the guy who just last weekend went into a brewery who had a bourbon barrel aged quad that had barrel aged for 2 years and bottle aged for 3, and I bought all of it.
Oh, yeah. So you're the guy. So I can't. I wanted to get into to trip to quads so badly. I can't even tell you. But there's something that it's like eating a meal in a bite. It's like a bite of a beer rather than a drink, and it's like my palate just goes the other direction. And I've tried. Like again, the whole Belgian beer scene is basically based around this type of thing and these styles. And City Beer Store, very much famous for a lot of theirs. And I tried. I really did. And it's so much and it's so yummy, but I can never buy like, cause they always come in the big goddamn huge bottles. And so it's always like, cool, I'll die if I drink that much. So I'll have a sip and then I just don't end up having the rest. So
Right. Well, luckily the ones I got are only 500 ml bottles, so they're not giant. But I did buy 10 of them, which was all they had left in stock. And
I've done that.
it's a, oh, I'm going to have one this weekend, and oh, I'll have one next weekend, and I'll have one the weekend after that. So it's not like I'm sitting down and drinking 3 or 4 of these in a sitting. It's like, this is going to be the beer that I finish my night off with. So I want it to be something nice and memorable and something really flavorful. And I find that the barrel aged beers are that. They're always flavorful. They're always smooth. A lot smoother than they would be.
And interesting.
And
like
interesting,
it's an interesting, just like literally the flavor. It's not just, oh cool, it's, which I love. I'm an IPA guy big time. Like I could just go through those, but like those, it's a good flavor. This, like, it fills your mouth, it coats it. It's just this really nice sort of every drink. It's like, like it's like, it's what I imagined beer would be when I was like 12 and watching The Simpsons. Like, I don't know if that makes sense. Like that emotion of how Homer would drink and you go,
Yes.
It's like, and I don't think I had that for like 10 years, because I will tell you, Bud Ice does not do that.
So mine is this beautiful purple color. It's in a fantastic glass from Unicorn Brewing in Portland, Oregon. I had the owner of Unicorn Brewing on my show just a little while back, and we were talking about Czech dark lagers, which is another fantastic style.
Unicorn is excellent.
Yeah. Zach's a great guy too. I mean,
Unicorn is excellent. I'm just outside of Portland myself, so
nice. So you're probably familiar with it then.
I am.
So yeah, I decided to crack open the Purple Danger Juice to go with first, because it is one of my favorite beers. I'm a little biased on it though, because I am friends with the owners of the brewery, and So, but it is one of my favorites. Whenever it comes out, I tend to grab 12 or 24 of them, and I throw them in the back of the cooler, and I drink them at like Kool-Aid, which is a problem, but it's fantastic.
It's these Temptation. I have like levels, because Russian River does, like, they have like their piece de resistance, which I'll get to. But like Temptation's one of their it's harder to find. They don't generally have it on tap anywhere. It's always bottled. And so I always have, like, luckily I have a few friends who are also into Russian River who go up there. So I'm like, send me a case, buy a case and send me it. But their entire line, all the way down to their darker stuff like Consecration, is incredible. It's all like, really, really dark, but still deep sours. Nothing as beautiful as that. That's a beautiful beer. Like, also really nice color. But then if you go to the extreme high end, and I have 4 bottles of it left, because it's like, I can't touch it. I can't mentally handle it, is Beatification. Beatification is like you're allowed to buy 6 ever, and they only come out once every 18 months, and there's like 3,000 of them, and that's it, and it's gone forever. It's probably the last bottle of Beatification I might get. Like, there's a reality to that. Even if I live another 40 years, I may never see another bottle. So it's like, oh, I don't want to drink it.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. And I've never had any beers from Russian River, though I have seen lots of their beers. Because I've been to the West Coast. I've been to San Francisco.
Whereabouts are you?
Right now, I am living about an hour from Toronto. So I'm up in the Great White North, if you want to call it that, even though technically the entire state of Minnesota is north of me. Yeah, so I'm in Southwest Ontario right now. I'm originally from Illinois, so moving to Southwest Ontario was not a big move for me. It was like moving to
Across the
Milwaukee,
water.
basically. Yeah, just moving more towards the east than anything. It was 350 miles east and 150 miles north for me. So, you know,
So if you were in Illinois, I have to ask because I'm always curious: is it colder on the like which is colder? Because Chicago's the I have family in Detroit. I had people in Chicago I'd visit, and both are the only places I've ever actively thought I was going to die from exposure.
so where I live now compared to where I lived in Illinois, Illinois was a lot colder, but Illinois was also a lot hotter. It was like the worst of the worst. You got the coldest of the cold and the hottest of the hot because one in the winter there's nothing to block the winds coming down from the north, so
No,
you
it's
just get bitter wind chill. And where I live now, I'm actually I'm like 40 minutes from Lake Erie, 45 minutes from Lake Ontario, and like an hour from Lake Huron. So I'm surrounded by water. So the winters are never as cold. They're more damp, obviously, because there's a lot more moisture around here. But they're never as cold, and the heat isn't as bad either for the same reason because we're surrounded by so much water. But the humidity gets to be pretty
brutal. Yeah,
unbearable. Yeah.
yeah.
Whereas in Illinois, I mean, you get a lot of humidity in Illinois where I was from. I was from about an hour northwest of Chicago, a town called Rockford, and
Hmm.
again, because there's nothing, it's flatlands. It gets fucking hot and everything bakes because there's nothing to really shade you unless you're hanging out downtown, in the shadow of tall buildings. If you're out in suburbia, it's nothing but one-story houses, and there's nothing really to block you. And with the way everything goes in construction these days, there's no trees, there's no nothing. It's just you know everybody wants these big green expansive lawns, and
Yes, they
no,
do.
I want trees, I want bushes.
Well, it's I'm an hour north of Portland. I'm technically in Washington, and it's like the best part of it is there's trees everywhere. It's the best. I keep going further and further away. It's like yeah.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about the flavor profile of the beer that you've got here. So
So it's straight on the more Chardonnay side of sour. It's got a light tartness, but I mean after aging, I'm trying to remember what it tastes like before aging. Before aging, it has a lot of bite because it is straight more like citrus sour. But as it ages, it just smooths and mellows out. So it's honeys. There's a lot of honey citrus more on that side. It adds a sweetness. It's brewed with Britannia Brett, so you're talking about like a hard punch until it
right.
ages and mellows, and then over time, I don't know. It's unique. I sound terrible saying that. I'd like to say I'm a bigger nerd in terms of like being able to define the flavors, but it's deeply unique. You end up with on the one side for sure you can almost taste the Chardonnay barrels straight through it. Like it's way more powerful over time, but even early on there's some of that. Um, but the way that they brew, you end up with kind of that edge of the IPA without maybe even more towards Pilsner. Like it's not hoppy at all. It loses all of that stuff, and it ends up just with a very nice sedentary, lemony, citrus, honey edge that I again I worship this beer. I
Yeah.
worship this
Oh,
beer.
yeah. So aged in Chardonnay barrels. So does it pick up that kind of buttery oakiness from the Chardonnay barrels, or is
I
it
don't
is it?
notice the oaky myself. It's a lot more of the Chardonnay. Just to read the back of it because they have their
eh,
screed.
of course.
Um, is it beer or wine? That's actually a really good question. Aged in French oak wine barrels with distinct characteristics of fruit and subtle oak. Sounds more like a description of wine than beer, but of course, Temptation is indeed beer. Temptation is a blonde ale. After the primary fermentation, it is aged in used French oak Chardonnay barrels. Flavors of wine and oak absorb into the brew throughout the barrel aging. During this time, a secondary fermentation occurs, and a yeast strain disliked by most brewers and winemakers called Brettanomyces. I can never pronounce that correctly. Brettanomyces?
Myces is
Brett?
what I say, but
I say
everyone just
Brett.
says Brett. Yeah, because
Um,
nobody wants to butcher it.
no one wants to be that person.
That's right.
Um, the addition of Brett, along with two good bacterias, gives Temptation intriguing characteristics and pleasant sourness. It is re-fermented in the bottle to create carbonation, as you saw as I
As you cracked it, it went
fucked
all
up.
over the place. Yep.
Um, It's used the same process used to make champagne and sparkling wine, and it does have that. Like it's got that edge of champagne more than any beer I've had. There's one that came out of. There's another brewery that did one. Well, I think it was on it. Has a skull with a crown on it. I'll remember it at some point. It'll click with me. That like did the same kind of thing, and it's a much more champagne style. So the bubbles are a lot smaller. They pop in different ways. It's not the same head. It's a very different type of beer. And again, like I said, I crossed from beer sort of over into wine, so I sit on that weird edge where I'm also a wine snob and a painful human being in general to know. So this like just hits those notes of both of them just really nicely for me.
It's that sweet spot for you. Got it. Yeah. So mine, when you bring it up to your nose, you get nothing but raspberry. I mean, makes sense because it's a soured farmhouse ale aged on black raspberry. So you get that raspberry right up off the nose.
I can't get over that color though. Like it's just beautiful looking.
Yeah, I wish I had a little bit better lighting for the glass, but yeah, it's it looks like raspberry juice, and it tastes like juice. You would be hard pressed to go, this is alcoholic. I mean, it's
Right.
that subtle and that smooth, which is kind of weird to say for a sour beer that the alcohol content is really smooth, so you don't really notice it. And it's just like taste like a tart drink you'd sit out on the porch in the summertime drinking it, like
That's the
lemonade.
best
But
sours. The best
yeah,
sours aren't sour. Like it's one of those things that's kind of hard to say, but it's in my experience, my favorites are the ones that like they still have that edge where like you can feel it almost back here,
right.
but it's not the sour sour.
Yeah, no, I love sours that are mildly tart, not overly acidic. The overly acidic ones, they're fine every once in a while if you really want that punch. Like, oh, I'm really looking for something that's got that punch that's really going to quench thirst or whatever. That's when you want those really acidic ones because they attack that part of your mouth. But 9 times out of 10, I'm going to go for something like this where it's just mildly tart. You still get a great bit of flavor from everything, and you're not puckering like a frog's butt when you're done drinking it.
Oh, yeah. It's some saison sours get really a little bit much for me on that
Yeah.
note.
Yeah.
So it's the weird aged. That's why I've let it sit around for like 5 years. I have another like half dozen in there that I wait, and I've been doing it for like 6 years. So now it paid off because at first I just wanted to drink all of them, but now I've got my stash where it's like every year they're aged enough, and so I can have a couple once in a while. And then I have my like other go-tos, which is nice to have because these are not them. These are not my everyday beers, my friend. This is for Rob's
Right.
beer show.
Right. Hey, I appreciate you busting out a special beer for my show. I mean, I typically try and find a beer that has a good story, but right now sours are kind of on hiatus for another month or so up here until it starts getting warmer. Then you'll start seeing more sours up here. So there's not a whole lot going on in the sour department right now. I had to pull some that I've had in the cooler for a little while. But I try and stock up on a lot of different beer styles so that I can have them throughout the year. And because unfortunately, a lot of beers are seasonal and they go away for a while, and you're like, oh, I could really go for one of those, and I can reach back into the back of my cooler and go, oh, I can go for one of those.
Yeah, it's the same thing for me where it's there's this place in Portland that I adore called a Little Beast Brewing.
Mm-hmm.
And Little Beast, they have they're like one of my go-tos. They've got this cute little beer garden with like 10 tables. It's really cute. But they have specifically like cherry pie sour. Like that's their thing, is they kind of do these really light ones. And if it weren't for that, I don't know what I would do, because they do it, they nail that. As I kind of sorry, just speaking of the timing of the year, it's one of the things that I've found most difficult is now that I live kind of just outside of a city that's not LA. I was in LA or San Francisco. Everything gets shipped there. Like I can have any beer in the world every
day. Right.
Now that I'm out, now I'm far away. It's my favorite breweries. It's like I have to rely on hoping friends live nearby or things like that. So it's been a lot tougher to find my favorite beers and kind of get a few of those in place. It's harder.
Yeah, no, I can see that. I mean, that's one of the first world problems I've had since moving to Canada is I can't get all the beers that I used to get when I lived in Illinois. You know,
Yeah.
I used to drink just like I used to drink Avery Mephistopheles like it was going out of
Ooh.
style. Can't get it up here. You know, I used to drink I used to drink just all sorts of the, you know, like I would go with Big Bad Baptiste is another one of my favorites, a barrel aged Russian Imperial Stout. Doesn't exist up here, you
They
know.
used to have Russian River was in grocery stores in LA.
Yeah.
Like, and I like good luck even finding it here in a specialty place. Just
Yeah.
it's ridiculous.
Yeah, well, you know, one of the things I really miss about the states is, and I lived in Illinois, so about an hour, like I said, about an hour or so northwest Chicago was Goose Island Bourbon County Stouts. So
Mm,
I used to get them every year. I would get
mm,
multiples, you know, like a dozen or so of the different styles total, you know, and up here, um, they have the liquor laws up here are very much like they are in Pennsylvania. So you have specialized stores to go buy beer, specialized
mm.
stores to go buy liquor, and I swear I think they only get like a dozen bottles of Bourbon County for the entire fucking province, and it's gone before before you even know it was in the store. So
Yeah.
you know, I miss stuff like that. Luckily, though, the craft beer scene here is still on the upward trend. I I say this a lot, and I'll tell anybody who asks. Uh, I think the craft beer scene in Canada is about 10 years behind the United States, so it's still on that really hard upward trajectory. So we're getting lots and lots of craft breweries open, so you're getting lots and lots of options, which is great. Um, I'm just
It just
waiting
takes
for
a while for him to catch up because it always starts. I don't know if it's the same up there, but it's because it's the same thing I'm seeing here. Because like in Portland, they've had the beers forever, like for sure. And there's a lot of really good like older breweries. But like I'm just north of Vancouver, Washington, not Vancouver,
right.
Canada. The That's why I just say Portland. It's just easier. But it's like they're just starting, like actual breweries are starting to open up. They've been going for a few years, but it always starts with like the safe stuff. And like to get to like the weirdos, it's like you almost need like a pyramid where it's like got to be 10,000 of the safe stuff, then the less safe, and then the super weird stuff that tends to be where I sit is always like the two breweries, but you need the rest of the mountain in order to get to that
Right,
point.
right. You know, it's funny that you said one of your go-tos is Little Beast. We actually have a brewery about an hour and 20 minutes from us called Little Beasts with an S. And they specialize in Belgians and Saisons. So it so it's funny.
They,
So Belgians are one of my
hmm.
favorite styles, and Saisons are one of my wife's favorite styles. So whenever we order from them, it's always going to be a home run because I'm going to get stuff that I really like, and she's going to get stuff that she really likes.
I tend to, my brother also, he's super into beer, even brews his own. He got one of those beer kit things that doing it himself. But he also likes weird, but he's outside of Dallas. He's in Austin. And so he's able to like go to like Martin House, which is,
Oh, Martin
if
House
there
makes
is,
fantastic beer.
the most insane and upsetting thing every time is when he sends me, look at what I'm drinking. I just want to go, just stop writing me. Like,
Yeah,
just, I don't need this ever.
I have friends that live down in that area, and Martin House puts out some fantastic barrel aged imperial stouts,
Oh,
and I used to get
God.
them to send them to me. I would I'd PayPal them like, here's $150, buy as much of this as you can and ship it to me, you know, and it was some of the best beers. But they also put out some of the weirdest beers. I mean, they were like
Yeah,
one of the they were
sour pickle beer.
yeah, they were one of the first breweries to
It
do the
works,
sour
by the way.
pickle beer. Oh, I know, I had one.
Good, because most people when I tell them that they're like gross, and I'm like, no, like it
It was
sounds awful.
it was so weird
Yes.
that, but it worked. Yeah. I went to a beer fest in St. Paul back in I want to say it was 2017, maybe 2018. And there was a brewery, I can't remember the name of it, but they were doing a dill pickle radler, which which yeah, you wouldn't think that's the same thing. It's like, huh? And you drank it and it was like, oh my god, this is the best beer ever because you know, you're out in the hot sun, you're eating fried foods because you're at a beer festival and it's nothing but food trucks and everything. And then these people have this dill pickle radler. And I was like, I'm skeptical of this because, I'm the guy who like eats the dill pickle chips and was like, okay, these are too weird. I can't eat these. But I drank the dill pickle radler and I was like, holy cow, on a really hot day. Cause it was like, 95 degrees out in the sun.
I
And
mean, that's when Radlers are perfect.
that's when
Like
they're
it's
perfect. And I drank it. I'm like, yep, that works.
And it's the one like sort of standing beer that's always in. I have my main fridge, my outdoor fridge, and I have my weird nerd fridge. It's kind of like how it's worked out. And because my wife doesn't want me to store my beer in the main fridge, except Radlers. It's the one thing because, of course, she's gonna absolutely have one of those. That's wonderful.
Yeah, yeah. We've got our main regular fridge, which beer only lives in while we're drinking it, and then I've got a small fridge just outside the studio here. That'll hold, I don't know, it'll probably hold 3 or 4 cases of beer. And then I've got a commercial cooler out in my brewing space because I'm a brewer as well. I've got a 10-foot long commercial cooler with 3 taps on it, so I can have kegs in it and the whole bit. And that'll hold like I don't know, I think it holds like a dozen cases of beer in the shelving side. So yeah, so we've got beer. It transitions depending, like, so if I'm recording shows, I'll have beers here downstairs next to the studio, so I can just walk out and grab one before the show. That's what I do with these. And then we've got the stuff out in the coolers, and we've got just lots of stuff out there. I've got a whole shelf of nothing barrel aged imperial stouts because that's my go-to style.
I have my outside fridges. It's one of those smaller like wine beer fridges, but it holds my good stuff, and it gives me it's I don't know why it feels cool. Like I guess I had this fantasy when I was like 20 of like going out to like my yes that no not today. And granted, it's a smaller version of it. It's like 5 shelves, and so it's like sliding it out and going. No. It feels cool to do. Like
it most certainly does. I love it when people are like, so what do you got to drink? I'm like, go out and look and pull something that you want. I'm like, unless I've got out in the garage cooler, I've got an old school green milk crate, like actual from like back in the milk delivery days, milk crate, that I put beers in that are do not touch. These are ones that are going to be for a show. And I'm like, anything that's not in the green crate is free game. It doesn't matter if it's I've got some beers out there that are from like 2013, 2012. I'm like, take whatever you want.
I just flat out do, like, when someone, what do you have? I always go, do you want an adventure or do you just want something to drink? Like, that's kind of like my conversation. It's always, because if it's an adventure, I've got that. I've got Freedom and Bowie cream ale in the refrigerator. Grab one of those. They're great. It's like, it's a really solid set of beers.
Yep.
You want weird? It's going to take me 20 minits as I tell you the story of each one.
Yeah.
Of these.
Yeah. Most definitely. Like we've got a friend who anytime we ask them what kind of beer you want, they always say a beer flavored beer. So we keep in the cooler. We keep one of our favorite breweries is called Nickelbrook. They're based out of Burlington, Ontario. They have one called Cause and Effect, which is a blonde ale, and it's a fantastic rendition of the style. It is the most inoffensive beer flavored beer that you can find, and it's the perfect introduction to craft beer for people who are not into craft beer. So like, here, try this, and they're like, oh yeah, this is really good. They're like, this is better than Bud. Oh, of course it's better than Bud, but it's a beer flavored beer for the people who don't.
That's Bowie, yeah. Buoy. It's a Bowie cream ale. Like, everyone in the beer scene here like kind of shits on it because it's a transition beer.
Yeah.
It's because I grew up in Denver back when Coors was the thing. You did not drink Bud.
I have an uncle who was a brewmaster at Coors, so I fully understand the Coors is the thing.
He probably met my grandfather who would go on tours. Like, this was the way it worked. It was, oh my God, it's with water of the mountain, and it's like all of these things that were like, and so everyone drank it, and it's piss. Like, it's awful. I didn't like it then. I cannot stand it now. And so it's like, how do you get someone from that who likes that? Because you do, like, the same way I like McDonald's fries. Like, it's not like they're great, but they're good. I don't know how to explain it.
They're familiar and they're comfortable.
Yeah. And so you need like a transition beer. And so like Bowie is that for me. It's always like, hey, try this. And it's like, oh, that's really good because it's safe. It's like so safe as a beer. It's just boring, and
it's like here's their line of comfort. On this side is your Bud, and it's like just right here. It's just right on the other side of it. Yes. And they're like, oh, wow. Yeah, this is really good. I might have to.
Oh, it's the same price as the other stuff. Yeah, it's actually the same price, and
exactly.
it's easy to find. So
yeah, and that starts them down the slippery slope that is
Costco sells
beer.
it. Like it's one of those. Like Costco sells it, and Costco I would not say has the world's greatest taste in beer, but they have a few of those. It's like excellent,
Yep.
just safe, easy, get people to that.
So you said you work in video games. What do you do?
I do. Well, I started a company a few months ago. I work in a weird place I'm trying to redesign how video games make money.
Okay.
Which sounds weird. I don't know if you're big into video games.
I am a gaming nerd. My wife is a gaming nerd. I mean, I've got a battle station upstairs that's 2 4K 27-inch monitors. My wife has 4 monitors. So
excellent.
We are computer geeks.
Video games make money in kind of one of 3 ways. You flatly pay for a product, which I'm fine. Like it's fine. It's just normal. It's the way it's worked.
That's my favorite style.
Yes. And then there's free to play
with microtransactions.
Yeah. The idea is great. Free games for everyone, which means more people can play them. People who don't have as much money. I love that. Big, giant user bases. But then they basically use FOMO and gambling addiction in order to get people to spend more money.
Right.
Or straight pay to win, which is kind of the third and I think the grossest. And again, I don't think anyone wants to make any of these. I think there's a way, and our platform's kind of designed, and we'll see. It's not live yet, but it's kind of built around the idea that video games should flatly be free. I believe play as a thing should be a thing that is free for all people. There should not be any roads to pay for it, the way sports works. I go play, I've got a 4-year-old, and I run out in the yard with him. I don't pay money to anyone to play soccer. I don't even have to buy a ball. We use a dodgeball because who gives a shit? Like,
why not?
But it's still soccer. Like the rules of soccer still keep it soccer. It's don't use your hands, kick it this way, hit it in the goal. And he's learning, and it's the same soccer that Messi plays, but even Messi doesn't pay money to play soccer. Like it would be silly to anyone that, he can buy gold shorts and he can stand out in the field with +2 extra speed shoes. Like people think it's silly, but this is literally how video games are designed now, like from the ground up.
Most definitely.
And I couldn't hate it more. And so that's what my team is doing, trying to build a way to do just flatly free games where the player doesn't ever spend a penny and can't actually. So it's fun. It's been a really weird ride. And we're kind of getting out there. We're looking at launching the end of this year. Before this, I've done VR. I worked on Avatar and Star Wars and worked for James Cameron for 4 years. Like I've done a lot of really cool stuff. But this is kind of like my baby these days.
That's awesome. No, that's fantastic. I always love finding out what it is people do. I mean, in a previous life, I was an executive for a medical corporation. Go figure, right? I've been a home brewer for about 15 years.
Good for you.
I met my wife on social media. We got married, and she decided she didn't want to move to the United States due to the political climate. And I couldn't say that I blamed her. So she asked if I'd be willing to move to Canada. So I retired early and moved to Canada with the plans of opening a brewery until I found out just how hard in Ontario it is to open a brewery. There's so much rigmarole, so many hoops you got to jump through. And then, right now, she said, well, you can't be retired because I'm not ready to retire yet. And it's not fair that you'd be retired and I wouldn't be, and I'd still be working. So you have to go find a job. So I went back into IT, but I decided to take a job where I have like little to no responsibility. So when I leave work, which leaves me plenty of time to do my hobbies, which are brewing beer and talking about beer.
I'll tell you right now, people laugh at me when I say, because I've had amazing jobs. I'm so lucky the work that I've been able to do and the people I've been able to work with, but I missed working in a kitchen. Like I was a chef for a little while, a cook, line cook, sous chef. I've done it all. And I miss it because exactly that reason. When you're done for the day, you crack a beer and you're done. Mm-hmm. Like nothing carries home with you. It's not like I'm going to take the recipe list tomorrow. I'm going to go home and prep it. And like,
it's not a thing.
You're done.
Yeah.
And then you kind of you go home and you do other things, which is, that sounds so stupid when I say it out loud because I don't. Life is work. Like it's especially working from home. And it's one of the bonuses. I get to be at home. My daughter was just born, so I get to just be around her all fucking day, which is amazing. And but at the same time, I'm 80, 100-hour weeks without even knowing it. because
Yeah,
you just are doing it.
because that separation is a little harder when you're work from home. I mean, I understand. I was work from home for a long time. Um, I mean, when I moved to Canada, I was actually still working for the company that I worked for in the United States, and I was doing everything remotely. And I did that for 6 or so months, and then I retired, and that
It
lasted
crushes
all
you.
it lasted all of 6 months before my wife's like, yeah, no, you can't be retired. So I got another job, and I was work from home from that job. But yeah, you tend to, unless you can really set hard boundaries, it's hard not to. I mean, you drift back into doing work. You're like, oh, I'll just go check on this while I'm waiting on this. And you end up doing 80 to
Speaking of
100
beer,
hours.
here's the thing I'm curious about, and this is the thing. It's even for your listeners. I'm fascinated by, because one of the things I've really been interested in is the way social everything has changed ever since we've gone remote, and I don't think we're going back. Which, for a lot of reasons, I'm really happy.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically, two things. One, the idea of having a child interrupt a video call before COVID was the worst thing that could happen.
Oh, the worst
Like,
offense ever. Yeah.
it was awful. And now, like, no one, not only does no one give a shit, like, kids are in the room. Like, it's like, this is just my life. Get over it. Related to that is beer during work. So because it's not during work, but you're on a work call.
Right.
So do you socialize?
I do.
We have people in Sweden. Their night is 10 at night. He's having a beer. He's relaxing. We're in the middle of our day. It's like, we're cool with it. Like, I made it clear, my company, no one gives a shit. But I'm always fascinated. Like, do the bigger companies care? How does this even work for something like that it used to be so verboten? Like, absolutely. Could you imagine drinking a beer on a video call for work? Like,
Yeah.
3 years ago?
It's funny. I've been incredibly fortunate that pretty much every company I've ever worked for has been really good about that. Like, I was always the guy that we'd go out for lunches with people from work, and I'd be like, I'm gonna have a beer, and then like my boss would look at me and go, yeah, I'm going to have a beer too. And as long as you only had one or two during this lunch meeting,
Yes.
nobody said anything.
No one cares.
So that carried over. So when everything went remote, I'd be in meetings for work with like the president of the company and the head of the department that I was working for with the previous company I was with. And I'd be like, we were sitting there. I'd be like, yeah. So, what are we talking about here today? And they'd be like, oh, what are you drinking, Rob?
Yeah, eating food during video calls, like really important ones even. Like, I'm very happy that's changed. Like, I cannot say how happy I am that that's changed, because it was, video calls were so somber and specific, and there was like a regimented social regality about them that I'm really kind of glad is out the fucking window, because I hated that.
I am too. I mean, for as many for all the fucking bad shit that COVID did, allowing people to prove that the jobs that people said couldn't be done from home could be done from home, and breaking all these stupid rules like, oh well, you can't do that on a video call, and you can't be doing that during work hours. All that stuff,
even changing work hours, because it's a fun part. I'm CEO, which I've never been before, so this has been weird. But when we're talking like with new hires and people are like, so how do you do work hours? Because apparently a lot of companies are still doing hey, we're sending you a laptop, you log in, we time it, and we watch what you're doing on it all day. And I'm just like that just feels like the worst thing ever. And my team, and I can say this with confidence, is producing 2 to 3x what they would do otherwise. I have none of that. For me, it's lay out the tasks. You have to do what you say you're going to do. If it takes you 20 minutes during the week, I don't really care.
As long as it's done on time.
As long as it's done
right.
on time, I don't care. And if it's not done on time because you need more time, it means we need to hire more people. Talk to me like that. It's a different mentality. And I think everyone's happier. I'm happier because I don't have to be like time managing people, which is genuinely the worst kind of management that there is. But on top of it, like, people can just have lives.
Yeah.
Like,
no, I totally agree. When I was
sounds so stupid to say these sentences out loud.
What's sad is, it sounds stupid, but it's also perfectly valid and common sense.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when I was an executive, I was chief information officer for a fairly large medical corporation. They owned 5 different companies, and my management style was, I don't care what you do while you're working in the office, at home, whatever. Uh, Here's your project list. Here's the due date. Get it done by this date. I don't care if you spend your entire day in the office watching YouTube videos and work at night when you want to work after eating dinner or whatever. As long as the project is done on time and it works the way it's supposed to work, good. You know, you want to be in the office here and you want to sit around and just kind of be around in case there's a problem and do your actual work some other time. Great. You do that. You want to work your ass off during the time when you're in the office. Great. You do that. As long as it gets done, I didn't care. And I'm still that way. I mean, where I'm working now, I'm the senior position in the IT department I work in. And I told the two junior guys that are below me the same thing. I'm like, I don't care what you guys do with your time during the day, as long as the projects get done on time and they work the way they're supposed to. And I've never understood how that wasn't a thing to begin with. It's like, who cares if the work is getting done? Who cares what they're doing when you walk
because
by?
it's a great book. If you haven't read it, David Graeber, Bullshit Jobs. It is the best book on why this exists, as you're talking about. The way he does like an ethnography of like how work works. And it turns out like 60 to 80% of jobs are what he calls bullshit jobs. They're not needed. And he has like a list of why. And one of them is middle managers, where their job is literally just managing people in and out for someone who's managing them. They're just like a middleman of management. And so because of that middleman of management, we create secondary middlemen of management. And it becomes this like, it has a self-reinforcing, I need to be doing something. So therefore we're doing X, Y, and Z mentality to it. It's completely worth reading. It's a super fun read and also slightly depressing and pretty funny. Totally worth reading. Bullshit Jobs. Good. It's a good one about that.
I'll have to check it out. Yeah. I mean, I understand that completely. Like, I've never understood the whole middle management person. It's like, they spend their entire day scheduling meetings with people to justify their existence. It's like, oh, well, I've got this and this and this and this and this to do, but yeah, okay, but what are you actually doing? You're just meeting with people. You're not actually producing anything. You're not the person who's actually making the product. You're not the person who's actually doing anything.
Yeah.
You're just making meetings and talking to people.
Well, and it's the way he breaks it down is almost like, it's embarrassing as you think about it. So his first one is flunkies, that people whose job specifically exist to make their bosses feel important. Receptionists, assistants, store greeters, whatever it is. Then there's goons who specifically are just there to harm and deceive people, like lobbyists, telemarketers, whatever. Then there's duct tapers who fix problems that could be fixed permanently, but don't fix them permanently. And box tickers who do, like, that's the one we're talking about. We're talking about box tickers, the appearance of something useful being done, but it's not. And then the last is the tax masters who create extra work for those who don't need it. And that's the last bit. And and he breaks down, and it's almost comedic if he wasn't really good at breaking down, like, here are literal examples of these things and how they operate. And as you read, you're like, oh, good Christ, that's like, it's a third of my job sometimes. Like, it's like wonderful. It's just really, it was something.
So I have moved on. I'm on my second beer. This is Lifeline from Grain and Grit, another one that's got a nice color to it. It's a little bit hazy. This is the one that's the sour with blackberry, blackcurrant, and lavender.
Lavender.
Yeah. So you get the lavender more in the aroma than you do the flavor, which is fine by me because I'm not a huge fan of the floral flavors.
No, I don't know about flavor, but the smell I think would be interesting. I don't know if I've had one of those.
It mingles quite well with the kind of the acidic berry aromas and the acidity of the tart. And this is another one that's not overly tart. It's a mild sour.
Which brewery is that, by the way?
This is Grain and Grit.
Green and Grit.
Grain and Grit. Yeah.
Grain and Grit. Thank you.
Yes.
Sorry.
So they are in Hamilton, Ontario. And again, they're like most breweries. I get to know the owners and they become friends of mine. They're friends of ours. and they make fantastic beers. I mean, they make such good beers that we joined. They have a membership for the brewery where you get special perks, and they make such
Mm.
good beer that we joined the brewery. So we get once a month we get 4 free beers, and then well, or 6 free beers if you want 6, or it's 4 and a free 12-ounce pour in the brewery if you go into the brewery, which is nice. And then we also get like 10% off all merch, and we get our name on a plaque on the wall.
I'm just
in
looking
the
through some of their
brewery.
flavors, and it's a fresh faced sour lager with pineapple and blood orange. Good
Yeah.
Lord, that sounds like something I'd love.
Yeah, they make some pretty off the wall stuff. They have a whole set called their pilot series, where it's just stuff that they try. And right now they're doing a whole lot of beer wine hybrids, which would be right up your alley, my friend.
Yeah, no, it's tough to find. There's one or two places in Portland who do that kind of weird combination, which is great. There's not a lot, but like I said, it's like the pyramid. You end
Yep.
up like there's one, and then maybe if it gets large enough, there will be a second, and you go, oh, then it's my happy day. But
Yeah,
like it's not that
well,
common.
we're really fortunate where we live. We are within an hour or an hour and a half of, I would say, probably 100 or so really good craft breweries, and there's probably at least that many or more not quite as good craft breweries, but still acceptable craft breweries. And then of course you've always got your, well, that one's complete garbage craft breweries, but
Well, and I've only lived here for a year and a half now, and so it's been with COVID as well. It makes it a slower pull to like now to go explore that one, now to
Yep.
go to try that one. But it's been my favorite thing. I forgot how much I loved doing that when I was in Denver, and my cousin and I, before my cousin passed, we used to just spend all the time going to like random little places and like trying.
I love doing that.
It's the best because it's even a bad beer is still a good experience, which is hilarious. Like,
Yes.
because at worst you get to go, well, this was terrible, and you laugh about it a little bit.
Exactly.
It's still beer, so
it's still beer, right? And, you know, and a good day with a bad beer is still better than the best day working.
yes. It's a fishing or golfing. I think fishing, golfing, and beer. Those are the three, right? Isn't it? I think.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you know, I don't know. There's one of the other really good things that happened here in Ontario with the onset of COVID is beer delivery. So prior to COVID, craft breweries were not allowed to ship their product. You had to go to the brewery to buy it, or they had to have distribution agreements with the local liquor control board. With the advent of COVID and people not being able to go anywhere, they loosened the restrictions, and now breweries are able to ship all over the province, which is fantastic. Someone actually even put together a website. It was like Ontario Craft Beer Index or something like that, or Ontario Beer in I can't remember. It's like ODBI.
Ontario Beer Delivery Index, ODBI.ca.
Yes, and so when COVID first started, my wife and I would literally go on that site, and I'd hit the scroll wheel on my mouse and just scroll through all the breweries, and where the pointer was, I'd click on it and we'd order something from them and have it delivered. And we've discovered so many really good beers that way. And then it's like, well, once all the restrictions are up and we're actually traveling places again, this is a place we need to go. And you know, and a couple of those breweries I've actually had them on my show and talked about their beers, and you know, it's definitely like, oh yeah, this is definitely someplace I need to go and have beers in their facility and check out things, because the products are fantastic. And you know, it's been great in terms of that, and I don't see that going away at any time, because now, you know, the government's realized, well, shit, if people are buying beer and having it delivered, we're still making the tax money off of it.
Yeah. Well, and they're starting to do, I think my favorite thing I saw, they're starting to do beer to go, alcohol to go, because that's a lot of places you're not allowed to leave the place. Once you order, stay. And I know a few cities, I mean, in Europe, that's not even a thing. But a few cities in the US like started like, what if we allowed it? Turns out it's actually better for everyone. It results in fewer deaths, fewer car accidents, fewer drunk driving, all that fun stuff.
Well, and you're not going to a restaurant to buy a case of beer. you might have a
No,
couple of them to go
no,
with,
yeah.
you know,
You take your wine and you walk outside then, and you're not beaten by police for just walking around with some
right.
wine. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not like you're like, oh, I'm gonna go to Shea Ricardo's and buy a case of beer at $7 a can, where I can go to the liquor store and get it for
Yes.
like $1.50 a can. So it's not like, it's not like people are gonna be buying a ton of it. They're gonna have one or two, and they're gonna walk off premises with the last one that they had in their hand or whatever. Yeah.
Yep.
We've got not quite that liberal here, but we've got it to where now restaurants and places can sell you beer to go with your meals.
Mm-hmm.
And the big shocker here was like I think it was about 6 months ago or so, the food delivery services, so like DoorDash and Uber Eats and that, could deliver alcohol with your meals for you as well.
Uber Eats has started doing it here, and I'm just like, okay, all right,
Yeah.
this is the thing.
So yeah, you want to order a nice meal and a bottle of wine to go with it, you can now, which is great. I mean, and it's beneficial for everybody involved. So
it is significantly better. Well, and again, it's better for the breweries because
yes,
we need more of them.
we do. We really do. I mean,
and it is tough. I mean, to your point, I'm hoping you haven't given up
on
having your own brewery.
Oh no, I did give up on having my own brewery, but I have but I'm gonna have a fucking kick-ass home brewery.
What you should do. A buddy of mine ran into this in California. California is the same kind of nightmare in that way. And he found that he could brew for another brewery.
Yeah. They have well, up here it's kind of the reverse. They have contract brewing, so you can brew at another brewery for your company, so you don't have to have the investment and everything, but you still have to have all the licensing and everything. And up here, to manufacture beer is one license, to distribute beer is another license, to sell beer on your own location is another license, to have people allowed in to sample your beer is a license, and to have people buy beer by the glass is a fifth license, and all of them cost money. So it's a logistical nightmare in terms of licensing and paperwork. And my wife and I were talking about it, and we had a decent amount of money earmarked that we had saved to open a brewery. And she's like, well, we could go through with this and go through everything, but realize that you're not going to have vacations for the next 5 or so years.
No, it's your life at that point.
Yeah.
It's
and
true.
I'm like, that's a good point. So rather than opening a brewery, I'm just going to have a really nice home brew set up. So I've actually got, it's supposed to be delivered the middle of next month. So in about a month, I've got a 1-barrel system, skid mount system coming. So it's a 3-vessel system that's commercial quality, that's going to be in my garage. So I've got a huge garage that we built when we bought this house. We built a new garage on it, and I had it designed with brewing space in mind. So I've got a huge garage with brewing space. I'm going to have 1-barrel fermenters and the whole bit. So it's basically going to be my own personal commercial brewery.
We had to move into when we came up here, we're in a smaller place now. We got just like a couple bedrooms and a small garage. And at some point, that is my hope, is to get out just a little further from society, be able to have a little bit more and have a workspace brewery. Yeah.
Well, so we lucked out. The housing market up here is crazy.
Mm-hmm. Everywhere.
But Toronto is like listed as, I think, the second most expensive city in the world right now for buying housing. We bought this place right before everything really blew up, so we ended up getting a really good deal on a house on 3/4 of an acre. So I've got a little bit of land, not anything that's unmanageable, not a big burden, but I've got a garage that's 2.5 cars wide and 50 feet deep, so it's got plenty of space. I park the cars in the front, I do beer brewing in the back, and it's absolutely fantastic. I have it, we had it built, we had it all wired for everything we needed, and we had plumbing put in because I knew I was going to be buying a bigger brewing system than what I had when we moved here. So
Mm-hmm.
It's all good.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's I don't know, jealous on that front. It's a fun. There's nothing, and again, to go back to my dreams, and maybe I over romanticize my time. There's nothing like making something that people like can enjoy in the way that they can with food or beer or wine.
Oh yeah, no, most definitely. I feel the same way. He's like, a lot of people are like, "Wow, man, you're spending a lot of money on this new brewing system. Are you gonna sell the beer?" I'm like, "No, but I'll give it away to anybody who wants to drink it. Come on over, have a beer, bring a growler or two, and take some home with you."
Take some home with you. Yeah, Jesus,
Yeah,
that's awesome.
it is. It's one of those things that it's a hobby for me, and I think in the long run I'll be happy that I've kept it a hobby rather than making it a vocation.
Yeah, you know what? I know what you mean. I
Yeah.
like that. I
So
like that. Yeah, because I've had a few friends who've gone, but sometimes it works. To go back to City Beer Store, it's Craig and Beth. They're the founders of it. It's a married couple. Some of the nicest goddamn people I've ever met in my life. Like ridiculously nice. And he just really likes beer. Like you enjoy beer quite a bit. I'm not saying you don't. He like it's another level. And so they had like just 2 refrigerators and then 3 or 4 like the full size, like it's nice, and you'd pay a corkage fee to drink it on premises, and they had a few. It was very simple, and then it grew bigger, and then they opened a second one and a third, and then they've got like this like, and it's turned into a full thing for him where he's actually quite successful doing it. So there's a path. Now, to your point earlier though, that was like a lot of years of no vacations to get to the point where now they actually can take quite a few and enjoy themselves, and they travel and have all the best beers in the world, and everyone wants to have Craig come try their beers, and he's awesome.
yep.
But it takes a while, but yeah, that's more a lottery ticket reality than
Yeah.
than anything.
Well, just like anything, though. I mean, you really have to you have to sacrifice. You have to put in the work, and you have to do it right in order to reap the benefits. And if you're not willing to do that, then maybe you shouldn't. And I think on retrospect, I think maybe I shouldn't have. Maybe I shouldn't open a brewery. Maybe I should just do a home brew because I enjoy it, and I think if I did it as a job, I don't think I'd enjoy it as much. I'd still enjoy it, but not as much. It wouldn't be a passion anymore. It would be an obligation.
It'd be a stress. It'd be a
Yeah.
stress because it's the I got into making video games. It's a suffering and painful life, but I love it. But it is that like, and so it changes a lot of the mentality around why you do what you do in your spare time, why you do what you do when you're not. And I think beer and things that are so deeply recreational and almost spiritual, like as a relaxing and renewing self experience, I think that's how I feel about all that stuff. It's like, it's the same reason I've always been hesitant to like open up a food cart or something. I want to do it, and that's like a fantasy, but it's like, then every day it's like, do you think you can literally have that stress that if your passion doesn't make rent,
Right.
like you know what I mean?
Yeah. No.
Like if your passion doesn't make rent, do you want to then not do your passion anymore? Like I think that
fully
would break me.
understand that. Yeah. And I am fortunate enough that I could open a brewery, and I could not worry about it because I've made financial decisions in my life that have put me in a place where I could try and do this, and if I didn't make money at it, it'd be like, oh well, that was a failed venture, but it was a good experience. But then I'm also at the point where I'm like, but do I want to lose that money? Do I want to make that gamble, or do I just want to keep brewing stuff at home for myself and be able to play and take those
Yeah.
vacations and go visit all these other breweries that are making fantastic beer? It's one of those.
I
It's
know.
that weird line, and where do you want to fall? And I think I want to stay on the I want to stay on the amateur side of things.
I'm with you on that. I think it's there's professionals overrated.
Yep.
Professionals overrated. I'm with you on that.
All right, my friend, we have been talking for 58 minutes,
That's,
believe it or not. We have been.
I told you we can just keep talking. I love this. This was great. Thank you for having me on. Really, this was really fun.
Anytime that
I
you want to
found
be
I
on
found 2 new
again.
breweries. I
Yeah.
found 2 new breweries, which is
Eh,
great. Although I probably won't be able to get it shipped to me, but I have 2 breweries in case I'm in Canada, which is nice.
Oh, we might be able to ship something
We
to
might
you.
be able to figure a thing out.
Yes.
In theory, but I wouldn't presuppose.
But I'm going to put this out there. If you ever find yourself up this way, please look me up. We have 2 guest rooms. We could possibly put you up and take you around to show you a few breweries. But yeah, we've been talking.
I have no guest rooms, but if you're in Portland ever, you let me know. We will go to a few good beer. I will show you the town.
Oh yeah, no, most definitely. Actually, what's funny is I have been to or lived in just about every state in the United States except for Alaska, Hawaii, Oregon, and Washington State. Those are the last 4 I have to get to, and they are definitely on the hit list of places I want to get to once I feel comfortable traveling places again, because people are still stupid and coughing on.
You're not alone on that one. You're not alone on that one at all.
But yeah. This has been absolutely fantastic. If you ever want to be on my show again, I mean, please let me know.
Hit me up anytime. It's presumed that I would give it some time. I will find some other new beers and we will discuss.
Yeah, definitely. I tend to have repeat guests on once per season. So if you were on this, this is season 3. I might be contacting you for season 4.
I'd adore it. I'll find something interesting and super weird. Super weird.
You know what? You know what? The weirder, the better, because
there we go.
I love talking about strange and unusual things. And, like some of the beers out there have those super complex flavor profiles and things like that. I love talking about that. But so this episode will be airing sometime in May of 2022. I'm not sure exactly when. Because
I'm good whenever it goes up. This was this was a lark. I was like, you know what? I like beer. Fucking, I'll be on this podcast. I don't give a shit. Let's do this.
Yeah, no. And I really appreciate it because 1, I enjoy talking to people and I enjoy talking about beer. And 2, I love meeting new people and interesting people. And you, my friend, are both new and interesting to me.
Well, I'm flattered. And we should, and you can edit this out. If you let me know, anything nearby, Little Beast Brewery, by the way, would be the one to look at. We could do a beer exchange. Just saying.
Yeah, no, most definitely. If you ship things to Canada and you mark it as plumbing supplies, they or functional glass art, things of that nature. They tend to slide right through customs. But most definitely. I'm trying a new thing with my shows. I'm not recording as many shows in advance because I had a problem before where I put out feelers. I'm like, hey, I need guests, and I would schedule like 30 guests, and then people are like, oh, when's my
show up?
Yeah, well, no, I'd have them all show up and they'd be like, oh, when's my episode gonna air? Well, you were guest number 22, so you're going to be in June, and this is like January.
My daughter was born 5 weeks ago, and I have my own podcast, and it's a whole critical theory philosophy thing, and I haven't posted in 2 months. Like and everyone's like, we've been doing readings, and I'm like, yeah, it's whenever the fuck I get to it. Like, that's welcome to real life. It's the way it works.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. But so this will air sometime in May. I think it's going to be like the 2nd, maybe the 3rd week of May, but I'll let you know ahead of time for sure. And hey, anyone who ends up watching this, I really appreciate the fact that you watched it. If you liked what you saw and heard, please subscribe to the channel, click like, all that little stuff helps. If you want to contact me, you can reach me at robtalksbeer@rowald.net. We can schedule a time if you want to be on the show, if you want to talk about beer, if you want to talk about why you don't like beer or why you think my show sucks. Hey, let's talk about that too. I'm open for all subjects, all comers, no experience required, just the desire to be on camera and talk and be on a YouTube show. That's it. All right. Until next time, I'm Rob from the internet. Thanks for watching.